You have to put form on a horse. You have to bridle a horse in order to ride it. But if you're unbridled as a human being, you will not reach your potential. And that's what a good philosophy course will help you to see that.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of Audio Stew. This will actually be the final regular episode of season 0, so I hope you're excited for today. I'm your host, Kurt Bailey, and today's guest is Thomas Martin, who will be introduced shortly. Today's discussion is really kind of just a variety of topics today. The first half, we talk primarily about Professor Martin's life, and just some of his different experiences growing up and sort of what's formed him into the man he is today. And then the second half, we talk more about college and philosophy, which is what he teaches here at UNK. And I will go ahead and just apologize off the bat for some of the audio. It's gonna be a little shaky today just because there was a lot of background noise. He was sitting a little further away from the mic, and so I've tried to adjust things as best as I can. You might have to do a little bit more on your own, just as you're listening, but hopefully that's not too much of a distraction and you can still enjoy the conversation. So with all that, let's get rolling. Going now, I guess.
Okay, Kurt. You're Kurt. This is the Kurt Bailey Show. Go.
Kurt Bailey Show. Yep, that's the new name.
That's the new name. The Kurt Bailey Hour.
Ooh, that's actually kind of a nice ring to it.
Hour of power.
Yep. All right. So my guest today is Thomas Martin. He is a philosophy professor at University of Nebraska Kearney. And before we get rolling here, I would like. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more? I mean, I guess I already gave you.
Yeah, okay. Introduce yourself.
I already introduced you.
Well, Kurt, welcome. Thanks for having me do this, being a student in my Intro to Philosophy class.
Yep.
This is my 34th year at UNK.
Oh, wow.
I came here, originally I came here, they didn't have a philosophy department at all. And they asked me to come here to start a philosophy department. I just graduated, got a graduate school, and I was living in Missouri. I have a wife and 3 kids in Missouri. We lived on a little farm with 43 acres out south of the University of Missouri, 20 miles away out in the country.
Okay.
And I came here and they asked me if I could create a philosophy department. I was painting houses and working on a guy's farm, building fence and brush hogging, which all the farm rural Nebraska will know what I'm talking about. And they asked me if I could create a philosophy department. I just said, sure, I can do that. And I'd never done that before, but I graduated from 7 years at the University of Missouri after I had my BA at Northern Arizona in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay.
And I came here and started a philosophy, and now it's been going on. I got 4 of us, and we've been here for 35 years, so it's almost. It's kind of neat.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, they never had philosophy before.
So you're one of the originals.
Yeah, I'm the original one as far as the philosophy.
Okay.
They didn't have it. They taught history, and they taught literature courses, but they never had a philosophy teacher teaching philosophy at all.
Huh. Okay. Am I way off? This is Thomas Hall.
Right. That's not named for me.
Okay, I was gonna say.
It's not named for me.
That's
exactly what my one of my grandkids says. Grandpa, didn't you name this building for? I said no. This building, in fact, used to be a lab school where it was an elementary school for people who were teaching here in the 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. And in fact, my dad went to school here and graduated from this school in 1933, and he used to teach in this very building. He used to teach elementary school in the same building I'm teaching in right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
He was from Neely, Nebraska originally, and his dad moved here, and he was a corn seed salesman. He moved here in the 20s to Kearney.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. So
there's a lot of
history.
There's a lot of history in the first 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah. There is.
We could go even. Hang on. Sorry, I think I'm blasting it a little bit.
Okay.
We're spaced out a little bit, so hopefully the microphone audio is picking everything up right. Let's go way back then. If we're gonna start going back, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up? And I know you talked about this with the diplomat and stuff.
I grew up in my dad went off and got a PhD at Michigan State University.
Okay.
And I grew up right there. I was born in East Lansing, Michigan, where my dad had gone off to go to college. Him and my mom got married. He went off. He was a teacher, and he moved there to work on his doctorate degree in education, and I was born there in the late 40s and 49. So I grew up at Michigan State right there on the college campus, right down just lived across the street like I would have lived here as a kid. That's where I grew up. And then I moved my dad got a job after he got his degree and moved to Latin America as a diplomat for the American Embassy.
Okay.
To build normal schools and things like that, teaching colleges. So I moved to the Dominican Republic when I was 8 years old and spent 10 years in South America.
Okay.
That was in Peru, Ecuador, and Paraguay. That's where I grew up. Until the time I was 18, I came back to America.
So you bouncing around pretty much your
bouncing around a whole lot. Then
lot.
when I came back here, I went to school 1 year. Then I went in the Air Force for 4 years. And then I started at a community college when I was 23 as a freshman.
Okay. What was that like being in Dominican Republic? I'm gonna get to Air Force too, but
yeah,
Dominican Republic is, I know nowadays, it's like just the island of
it's
Haiti.
an island, right?
Yeah,
Haiti is it's a tropical island.
Yeah,
it's beautiful sandy beaches. And when I grew up there, Kurt, there wasn't anything American. There was no television in that part of the world, so there's nothing American. Now, if you went there, it'd be very different. I mean, you've got American trends and styles. They wear blue jeans and T-shirts. Back then and then, it was a dictator running the country, and Trujillo was his name, and he 90% of the people worked for him. Basically, the whole country was a big sugarcane plantation for him, and he ran it. And it was very nice hotels, and much like Cuba was when Baptista had it before Cuba, before Castro took it over. But as great as a kid growing up here, and it's in a third world. I mean, they call it the third world, but it's a Caribbean island. Dominicans, the people, mostly black people there.
Yeah.
A few Hispanics settled there. It's the first island to be settled. That's where Columbus's son landed. Or Columbus landed, and his son had a castle there. But that was the first. It was called Hispaniola. You get the word Hispanic now. But that's where the Columbus first landed. But growing up there, it was tropical. It was summer all year round. You're outside. It was like Huckleberry Finn let loose in the Caribbean. I mean, it's just a fun place to grow up as a kid because you're always outside. And there's wild parrots and wild birds everywhere, and just beautiful, and fruit trees, and baseball was a big sport. There's baseball being played everywhere. So it was really a fascinating place to grow up.
Was it weird, though, with it being more third world and stuff?
Yeah, well, my parents put me in a school, and my brother and I were the only white kids in the school. That was a little different for a while.
Yeah.
We were there for a while. They moved us to another school, a school that was integrated. It was half Dominicans and half American. But it was taught in English. It first started off in all-Spanish school. Yeah, but first year in the Dominican Republic, it's all Dominicans around you. And you stick out, and you're a Latino in America, you stick out like an immigrant would stick out here, even more so, though. But as an 8-year-old kid, you just picked up the language off the street, so you learned to speak the language pretty quickly. So then you just went about the day and went around the town, and you didn't really stick out especially once you can speak the language. You just walk around with the people,
So when did you move to South America then after that?
Moved there when I was in 1958.
Okay.
When I was just turned 8 years old, I moved there.
Okay,
Didn't come back till 67 when I was almost 18 years old.
Gotcha. And how was South America different from Dominican Republic? I mean, I know it's
South America, especially I lived in Lima, Peru, and Quito, Ecuador. They're old Spanish civilizations that were built in the 15th century, and the major cities are all Spanish designs. So it looks like if you were going to Madrid or Seville, it's the same architecture there as you'd see in Spain throughout South America. So you're literally walking around a 15th century city when you get in those places, 16th century, like Quito, Ecuador, Lima, Peru, where I was when I was a kid. The old colonial Spanish empire is what it was. And then it was industrialized and built out, but so much of it was left. Very, very poor people in Latin America. A lot of, especially Ecuador, is a lot of Indians. So 90% of the people are Indians, and I think in Ecuador is that percentage. So you've got this indigenous, they're the tribal people. The Incas are there. So you've got, and the Spanish came, and they were the ruling class over these people. And it's changed quite a bit, but it's still, they're pretty much the ruling class, and there's incredible amounts of poverty in that part of the world.
Yeah.
Hand-to-mouth living.
Yeah.
But that's, and nothing's regulated or looks like America at all. It's just whatever they can make of it. It's organized, but it's a whole different system.
Do you say, growing up like that, was it something you really appreciated after, looking back?
Yeah, looking back, I really appreciate it because it's such a different world than America. I think just to see that, plus to be amongst people like that of a completely different culture, and to be living in that world, you live right with the poor. In America, you're pretty much separated from people we don't live with. There's not such a vast difference between people like you'd see there. Incredible poverty and things of that nature. And also the culture, the language, the music of the people, and how they got out and celebrated, open air markets, a lot more openness in society. But I was there before it became like the shopping mall of America, I think everywhere, more stores and stuff. So there's lots of ma and pa shops, a lot of people selling things on the streets, just it's a completely different world. To give you an example, with regard to you watch somebody build a house, they'd bring out maybe 40 manual laborers that would be building one house, but they'd be working with bricks. Well, the way they moved the brick was by hand. So if they're building something, they just moved the bricks up to the second floor. They would just create a line and then just throw the bricks to each other. But it was all manual labor, and you watch them build. We don't have all machinery. So if Dominican Republic, I remember as a kid, you're going down there working on the street, they're digging a ditch, replacing the sewer pipe. Well, there's 9 guys have dug a 6-foot deep or 4-foot deep trench to lay the pipe in with picks and shovel. So you've got that kind of manual labor everywhere. Which in America, it'd just be unheard of.
I mean, I can hear the workers outside right now doing stuff on the sidewalk.
Picks and shovels and building that.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I'm 8, 9 years old. It's a completely different world than I left when I left America. So it's absolutely fascinating as a kid. I mean, just so much going on. I remember one day when I was walking to the bus, I walked by this one place where this man was sitting on a pile of rock, and the man just had like a bathing suit on, a loincloth. It's a black man. He had dust all over him, and he had a hammer, and these rocks are about 6 or 8 inches across, and he was hitting them like this in a pile, and he was throwing them over here. And so I left, and I came back at the end of the day, about 1/3 of the pile he'd taken, or 1/2 of it, and he was making gravel. That's how they made gravel. They don't have a gravel machine, but they take these larger rocks, and with a hammer, this guy beats rocks until he makes gravel and throws them in a pile. Well, that kind of manual labor and that kind of peasantry, I mean, the poor class, I mean, that's, as a kid, I mean, you're just fascinated, but as an adult, you look back and you think, my God, what poverty. But that's what somebody did for a livelihood.
Wow.
To walk, and it's so different than this world here, where we have no sense of that kind of labor.
I know.
And it's hand to mouth. If you don't work, you don't eat.
I mean, I'm sitting here with my MacBook and my fancy microphone, and I'm like,
you got your Cliff Bar, Gatorade,
all sorts of jazz.
No.
Wow.
Really different.
I know personally, like I've just lived in Nebraska my whole life.
Right.
I mean, that's not true. I lived in Arkansas for a couple years, but it's just the world is so big and out there, and it just blows my mind how many different lifestyles there are.
Well, if you get channeled into your own, you think the whole world looks like this. It doesn't.
I know.
At all, you know.
So what about the Air Force? How'd you wind up over there?
I was in the Air Force when I got out of high school in '67. I didn't want to go to college at all, and it was during the Vietnam War, and they were drafting. Out of high school, I didn't go, and I was working in a place unloading grapes at a wine place. At a wine company, I was unloading grapes, working in a winery. I got this job. I was doing that right out of high school, and I didn't like school, so I just went down. One of my buddies and I went down and joined the Air Force. So I ended up in the Air Force. Went down and ended up stationed in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, where I worked as a clerk and worked in the mailroom for a while and on the motor pool for a while.
Okay.
That's how I ended up there. Then I got out of there and I went back home. My parents were living in Pennsylvania. I went to a community college, like a central community college type of school. It was about 2,000 students, though.
Yeah.
Right after, it was 1971. And half the students there, the guys were all Vietnam-era veterans, were right in that period. So I remember taking freshman English, and there was about 10 guys in there, and all of them were my age, 22 or maybe 21. And you're with these 18-year-olds. Some of these kids have been in Vietnam. One guy had his leg blown off and things like that you're in class with. What's the world of difference going to school?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of experience in your own life, as opposed to just walking out of high school into school, you know?
Yeah. What was... So you weren't deployed overseas at all?
No, I never was. I volunteered to go to Vietnam, but they never sent me.
Okay. Gotcha. So 4 years though, that's a long time. That's a long time.
It is.
What, anything from that era of your life that you just...
Listen to a lot of Rolling Stones and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Well, I was stationed on Cape Cod so much. It was just, it was a rebellious time in America. You had anti-war protests and things like that. The Vietnam War was a very caustic war. At first, everybody was pretty much pro-Vietnam. Then after a while, the political swing went against it, fighting of communism and stuff. But it was it was a riotous time. And a riotous time when I was 19, for example, I was being trained to be part of the riot control guard when you're 19 years old, in case you had to be deployed in Boston during a civil unrest. So they were training us 19-year-olds to how we would go and fight a riot, but we never had to go fight a riot, thank heavens. But they were doing those kind of things. But other than that, being stationed in the Air Force, you're just on a military base, and you just like living in a little town, spend a lot of time playing basketball and stuff like that. Go to work and just, count the days. Like you said, 4 years. You knew like you had, well, I have 800 days left. You knew how much time you had left because you had a discharge date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind because I'm
4 years? No, you're in college for 4 years.
Yeah, well, and even just like getting trained to do all sorts of like enforcing all sorts of stuff, and I'm like, man, I'm getting out of high school, we're still reading books, like trying to figure out get kids actually interested in school, and over here you're gotta be prepared for riots and stuff.
They wanted to try to train us. It wasn't as though, thank God we didn't have to go do it in a riot.
Yeah.
But they show you this formation, how to go into a crowd and stuff like this and train you. But it was it was
You ever fly at all?
No, it just went commercially, but I never applied.
Okay.
The Air Force, most people are not pilots. It's a support thing. And the mechanic. It's a whole town they set up, basically. There's a supply. There's people who are cooks. There's people who work in the health club. There's people who are electrical engineers working on the planes, mechanics, and all that kind of stuff. Cooks and security guards and everything.
So, out of the Air Force, you go into community college now. You get done with community college. Where do you go from there?
Well, I went to the library and I looked at where I'm going to go to school, and I'm in Pennsylvania. I saw this picture of, in fact, I still have the book. I'll get it down for you. I had this catalog from Northern Arizona University, and it was in the bookstore, and I was looking at the pictures of this, like passing across it, and I saw that catalog, and I pulled it off the shelf, and that's a picture of the Sedona. That's by the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And that's Northern Arizona. I said, well, hell, I want to go to school here. I just looked at this picture, and that's where I ended up going to school.
Okay.
Northern Arizona.
Wow.
That's from 1970 or 1971, I think that catalog is.
Yeah. 73 and 75,
Yeah,
it
that's
says.
when it was. Because I got a community college in 73, and that was the book that was on the shelf, and later on I got a copy of that. But I think if you look in there, tuition was something, out of state, it was something like $30 a credit hour to go there out of state.
Oh, okay. So this is a catalog for the school.
Yeah, that's the catalog for the school, the whole school right there.
Well, that's a big catalog. There's a lot of info in here.
Yeah.
Graduation fees, $10.
$10 for graduation fee. What's tuition? It's nothing.
Let me see if I can find it.
It's just nothing. It's just amazing.
Let me see. I'm going to be so mad if...
No, when you see it, this is before they had technology. You came to school, you took humanities courses, you took what you had to take, and you took the courses.
Let me see. Fees and expenses. It's got to be somewhere right here, right?
Yeah, it should be right there.
I mean, you're the one who's seen it. Maybe you can find it, but...
Here, let me see it. I'll find it real quick.
Oh, wait. Fees for part-time students. Wait.
Should give you credit hours is what it should give you.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Here it is right here for...
is that really what it is?
Extension course. Here, late registration fee, $8. $17 per unit. That's $17 for credit.
See, I was looking at...
One course was $51.
I was like, that's $17. That can't be it. That must be a fee.
One course is $51. $51 for one course.
Oh, my gosh.
So I take 5 courses that cost me $255 a semester. Okay?
Oh, my word.
Yep.
I mean, I suppose you have to factor in inflation, but even then, that's still...
Here's room and board for 1 year. Room. Average, 2 semesters, $310. Room. 15 meal plans for the semester, $400. It's a whole different
It's
economy,
a whole different world.
But anyway, you could go there and you could work your way through college. I got a job as a maintenance man at a hotel.
Okay.
And you work, and I had a GI Bill, which is about $150 a month. They gave me a GI Bill, so I used that for all 4 years, and paid for my college with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you could go to college like now. It's prohibitive. You can spend $30,000 and go to a state school in United States right now.
Huh.
A house there somewhere. What's it cost to go here? $17,000 a year, probably with room and board and everything.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
What okay, what did you, so you graduated from community college, what did you get for like a degree from there?
Had an AA degree, an Associate of Arts degree.
Okay.
What I had.
And then moving to Arizona. It's Arizona State,
Yeah,
is that right?
it was Northern Arizona is what it was.
Okay.
Northern Arizona.
So what did you study there?
I studied philosophy there,
Okay.
and I got a BS in philosophy.
Gotcha.
I went there for 2 years. So I went to community college for 2 years. Then I went to Arizona. I think I was there 2.5 years and studied philosophy.
Okay.
And I'd never really read a book or done anything. I got this one teacher named Dick Wood who got me excited reading philosophy, and that's why I majored in it. Later on, I'd read before, but he never got me thinking about myself or ideas or anything.
So is that really how you kind of move through a lot of the early stages of your life? Was just like, this looks interesting, let's go after
that's
this,
what I
pretty much?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents were in South America, but then when I went to college, when you went to college before, I went to college, you just went to college. You didn't have a major at first. You just took courses, general studies courses, see what you're interested in, and then pick a major maybe. But usually you didn't have the idea that the university didn't really train you for a job, because your employer would train you whatever you're hired for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for an example, when I got out of school, my wife and I've been reading a lot of Tolstoy. I like this idea of going back to nature. So we'd save money. We just moved back to Missouri and bought ourselves a 43-acre farm, and then had milk cows and pigs and chickens and lived in the country. And I got a job just driving I went down to the warehouse and got a job driving a forklift. And they asked me, and I went there to get the job at Sperry Vickers, a hydraulic company. Would you like to work in the office? You got a college degree? I said, no, I want to do something physical. I don't like office work. I don't want to do office work. I'm not that kind of person. So I got a job in the warehouse. Then I learned how to rebuild hydraulic pumps. Then I was a hydraulic pump repairman. I fixed hydraulic pumps. That's what I did. What my philosophy degree. But the idea, what they do, if you're a good player, they can show you how to, with an English degree, if you're mechanically able, you don't have to go to school for mechanics. You'd like to, so you learn to read schematics and stuff. But if you have the aptitude and you like it, they'll show you how to do it. And if you work hard, Kurt, you can do anything you want to in the world. The idea of narrowing down to one little occupation, any job you're going to get, they're going to show you how to do it when you get there.
Yep. No, you're very right. I don't disagree with that at all. What When did you get married along the way?
I got married when I was right after community college. I got married.
Okay.
Been married to Linda for 47 years now. My wife. We got 4 kids and 12 grandkids.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is awesome. There's my little farm in Missouri right there. I'll show you a picture of it. It's just the side of the hills in the winter.
Oh wow.
That's 43 acres. That's just the side of it. And that barn, the small barn, it held about maybe 300 bales of hay. There's a little chicken house there and some other things.
Thank you for showing me that. That's so cool. So, did you say it was Tolstoy?
I was reading a lot of Tolstoy, yeah. Tolstoy had this real agrarian society type of living out with nature and going back to the farm. It's like you read down and go, we're going here. You know?
Wait, is he the poet, or is he the
He's a Russian author.
He's the War and Peace guy?
Right, he did War and Peace.
Okay.
Anna Karenina.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote War and Peace.
Got you. I haven't read War and Peace. It just seems so long. I want to read Anna.
Anna Karenina?
Yeah, that one seems good.
Yeah. War and Peace is about 1,300 pages. It's a great read once you get into it.
All right.
But it is a read. It's one chapter will be on war and one chapter will be on peace, and it goes right down the page with it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's
it's an
interesting.
Excellent read. Can you hear me okay now in there?
Yeah, you'll be fine, I think.
Good.
I can manually go back and boost things a little bit.
Well, that's good.
But it's just, in general, like the less work I have to do later on, the better.
Yeah.
So you're at a farm, living life as a forklift, hydraulics, all sorts of fun jazz. How the heck do you get to teaching philosophy now?
Well, when I go to Northern Arizona, I took philosophy courses. Started with Descartes, but it just got me interested in ideas, and especially reading things like we just read with Plato.
Yep.
Where the development of the human soul and things of this nature, you start to see and what philosophy is. I never knew what philosophy was, as far as it's a whole way of life, especially Greek philosophy, what it is to be virtuous and what it is to be fulfilled as a human being. And that just spoke to me. I'm 23 years old, 24, trying to figure out who you are, and wow, these people are serious about it. And the ideas, once you start reading those you read, you start seeing the ideas around you and how they work on people. And you can go the wrong way in life pretty easily, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the seriousness of a philosophy and a philosophy of life like of that nature. Plus, they got me reading literature and other books.
Yeah. How so? Did Kearney make you an offer to come here, or how did the actual move from Missouri to
after I
here?
got my PhD in philosophy,
Okay.
it took me a year and a half to find a job.
Okay.
And I applied 120 places.
Ooh.
And I got all these rejections. Meanwhile, I'm living on a farm. I'm working on my neighbor's farm.
Yeah.
Who was a pathologist. He had a dog farm. He raised greyhound dogs. And I worked on his farm. I fed these dogs. And I used to sell them 5 gallons of milk a day. I had my own cow. But I worked on building fence, brush hogging, and took care of his dogs for him. But I got this interview here, and they brought me here, and they asked me if I'd ever been here, if I'd come to Kearney, I might move to a small town. And I said, well, I wouldn't mind coming to Kearney because I used to come visit my grandparents here in the 1950s.
Mm.
My grandparents lived in Kearney, ironically. Okay. And my dad had graduated from school here, but he went on to Michigan and other places, never came home.
Yeah.
But then I landed a job here, and they brought me here, and they interviewed me, and then they hired me.
So what was that initial stages like of starting the philosophy department here? Was it pretty rough, or did you kind of figure it out?
At the beginning, they never had philosophy. The first semester, they didn't even have me in a catalog. So I only had 3 courses, and there was 4 students in one class, and only like 5 or 6 in the other ones, because I wasn't even in the catalog.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had like 30 students in a class, and we started it. And it was really fun, the adventure to start it, because they never had it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they required more students to take philosophy than they do now, so there's a lot more students taking it. But it was fun starting off, and now that I look back over the years, 35 years I've had students now are in their 50s, but it's fun to see all the students, the ones who did and what they become, and the whole range of things that they become, from doctors to people who own farms in Bassett, Nebraska and stuff, Just such a range of people I've known over the years. It's great doing it,
Do you have like a... actually, I'm going to save that question for later. Why do you think it matters teaching philosophy to young people?
Because you need some sense of what the purpose of your life is beyond work. Yeah. What you're made for, what you're made by God, what kind of creature are you? Mm-hmm. And if you're just an atheist, there's no meaning to existence. What are we supposed to do with our lives? Mm-hmm. And the seriousness of what you have to have a life. And when you're 18, 19 years old, those are the times to be introduced to those ideas, some idea of what's your end, like we studied in philosophy. Mm-hmm. What was I made for? What am I doing here? You're not just some accident who showed up. Now you're just going to wait for somebody to make you into something. Somebody's servant, basically. You're a free human being. What do you want to be? And actually start taking your life seriously. I found out, especially reading Greek philosophy, these are questions they ask you. It's a great time to be asked those questions. You're 18, 19, 20 years old. Start figuring out who you're going to be.
Are you... I think I've heard this before. I don't know. Are you Catholic? Is that right?
I am Catholic.
Okay, gotcha.
In fact, I'm a deacon in a Catholic church.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Where did that come from? Was that like...
I grew up a Catholic.
Okay.
Parents my dad was a Catholic. My Irish ancestors were Catholic.
Okay, gotcha.
But I left the faith when I was a kid. After high school, I didn't go to church anymore.
Yeah.
And then I went back to it about 6-7 years later, just walling around in the world, But books and ideas and teachers drove me back there because I saw that there is no truth outside of Christ. There is nothing. It's just the way of the world, any way you cut it. And then it's might makes right. Basically, it's the rich people get to win the day, or the strong ones win the day. That's what happens.
Yeah. It's crazy how... I wonder how many people come to school and that just never crosses their mind about all, like... And I think, in philosophy class, like, we definitely... Like, we got into some of these ideas and stuff, and I hope people are thinking.
I never thought about them before.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of opinion. So just somebody says something, who cares what they say,
Yeah.
But start taking themselves seriously.
Yeah. Because once you realize that, hey, my life actually does matter, then it takes on a whole different meaning and.
How like running the Greeks, the Greek philosophers are really quick, or you want to be controlled by your desires.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Then you're just mastered by it. Anybody who knows what you desire will just play you. The businesses, they'll just run you. They just play. You got to have a new iPhone. You got to have more food. You need a bigger house. You're just appealing to your desires, and you're not going to make you happy. you'll just end up short all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What you find out. That comes from experience, though. You can tell somebody that, but they don't believe you. You got to go out and do it for yourself, then you'll see it.
I know I grew up in like a evangelical family,
Yeah.
and so I've had this upbringing my whole life and stuff, and now it's finally like I've always considered myself a Christian, but it's taken the last like several years of my life when things like actually start like getting more real. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like
the reality of it's just something you repeated.
Yeah, it's not just I have to do this because that's what my parents told me to. It's like I have to actually. What does the Bible say about this?
Well, where's Christ in my life?
Yeah, and that's really taken the honestly, like this year, I think has probably been one of the more interesting ones because like I feel like COVID hit and then everybody kind of sort of went down, or not everyone, but a lot of people were just kind of
how's the attitude amongst the group of people your age? What are they like with COVID? How are they doing?
A lot of people, I think, are struggling pretty bad. Not as much recently, but especially like when it first hit and everybody was in lockdown. I think nowadays I think people are mostly just frustrated with like I don't like wearing my mask. I don't
They don't do it then, do they?
Yeah, it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Some people put up with it because it's like it'll help. But I think when it first hit, I think a lot of people were just like
it stops the partying and all the socialization pretty quick. But I'm sure it still goes on.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people lost the social aspect, I think.
Really?
Yeah, where it was just like, oh, everybody has to stay home and stay away from your friends and things like that. And like if you're a more rebellious person, it didn't matter. You're going to go do whatever.
Do what you want to
but
do.
If you wanted to, felt like that was the right thing to do, then yeah, I know it was definitely hard on people. I know for myself it was hard, but I think a lot of that it's kind of helped me reevaluate like what does it actually mean to be like a servant of Christ and stuff. So
exactly. Especially if you want to be a vocation of a teacher.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm doing. You're just introduced. When you're reading the early Greeks like that, you can see how they tapped right into Christianity. Mm-hmm. Christianity tapped right into the Greeks. Mm-hmm. Augustine tapped right into Plato is what he did. They brought it right into Christianity is what they did. The whole idea of the soul and these things and the journey to the other world and virtue and all that. Mm-hmm. You can just see the foreshadowing of Christianity coming. These people have a sense of God, but they have no idea who the perfect man is.
Yeah.
And you'll see in Scripture when Paul goes to Athens, he goes to Athens in Scripture. I forget which book, one of his letters. He goes to Athens and he comes to talk to them. They have all these statues. They have like 50 statues of different gods. And they have one statue of a God that has no face. And Paul says, I came to talk to you of the God who has no face.
Yeah, the unknown.
That's what he does.
God.
But you can see from reading Plato, this is 250 years ago. So they have a sense of what the soul is and what is the whole purpose of it. What's the end of life? What are we supposed to... They have no idea of the perfect man, though.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that part. Because we definitely like it from reading Plato, from reading I have an ancient literatures class with Tossie, and so we read a bunch of like the Odyssey and
how'd that go?
It was pretty good.
That's a simple read, isn't it? The Odyssey there. The tripods all the time.
Yeah,
gold and
there's definitely some dry spots for me, but
it's really dry.
But overall,
but
she made it better.
Yeah,
I'll give her credit where credit is due.
Yeah, no, she's a dynamic person.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
You can tell she used to be a dancer the way she moves too. You know it.
She was really.
She used to be. I mean, she does yoga and all that stuff, so she's real. She's real coordinated.
Yeah, I noticed that. She's very graceful.
Yeah, really graceful.
Huh. Interesting. So, I think I had a train of thought, but I think I lost it. So I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, fine.
How do you get young people to care about this kind of stuff?
Well, you saw me teach. You think I wake any of them up?
Definitely a few of them.
Huh?
Yeah, definitely a few of them.
Part of it is you've got to get under their skin. You've got to have them thinking about things. Ask them questions that they'll be thinking about when they're not there.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I remember my teachers did that for me, and what they talked about in class, these ideas would resurface. They'd come back to me, and I still remember what the conversation was. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have any experience of that happen to you or not, or hopefully it does, where you start thinking about what you were talking about in class. This has been a really hard semester because I can't interact with the students much. They can't hear them where they're saying. You know, normally you have a lot more conversation back and forth, so you really get under their skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one gal one day, how many pair of shoes do you have?
That was funny.
But you sit there, and they'll remember that.
Yeah.
So 50 pair of shoes. So do you have control over your desires, or your desires control you?
Yeah.
Well, you see, then it takes the Plato's problem, it makes them their problem.
Yeah.
So obviously you have to say, well, I can't control myself at all. You know. So does that worry you? In other words, you make it part of their problem. But without masks, you can do that a lot more than you can with masks. So you have a conversation with them more and more, and hopefully those things. That's how it's stuck with you. So plus you learn to think that way because you're talking in generalities usually, but you're not talking about specifics. You know.
Yeah, because you have to make it actually like.
Give me an example.
Make it practical for me. You know, I've never asked you this, but how hard was it to hear people with masks on? Like, could you really?
I can't hear them at all.
You can't hear them at all?
Not at all.
Wow.
Why? Could you tell?
No, I mean, I could tell a little bit because you'd ask to
strange.
repeat and stuff, but...
I'm hard to hear it anyway, but with masks on, I can't hear. I can hear you perfectly when I'm in the room.
Yeah.
I could hardly hear them, especially in the back room. I couldn't hear them at all.
Yeah. I felt that because I remember when...
Like, all the athletes are in the back row. Get up here, come on, you know.
Yeah. I remember at the start of the semester we had more people, so there actually was a back row.
Yeah.
There's one girl who I feel bad because I don't want to say one girl because I didn't learn everybody's name super well.
I didn't either.
But
I knew their name, but not the faces. So.
Yeah. But there was one girl who, like, occasionally you would call on and then she'd give an answer. You'd look to me like, what'd she say? And then I'd yell it out and you still couldn't hear it.
No, you can't hear.
I felt so bad.
That was Hope was back there. Hope, and finally she moved to the front row.
Was that Hope?
Yeah, Hope.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that was her.
Yeah, in that room, there's a fan running there. So
right at the front.
No, it's a room from hell.
Ugh.
Because I taught in this other room up here, 214, which is fine, but it's a smaller room.
Oh, and so you had to move to...
I only had 8 students, but I could hear everybody perfectly clear in there. But even there with a mask, you can't hear. It just muffles a person's voice. If anybody's that way. Unless you're in a room and you're young people, you got good ears, but you're so used to looking at someone's mouth when they talk, you know, and expressions.
Yeah. I'm really bad at, like, I can read expressions, but, like, I know, especially my mom is good at, like, reading lips and stuff, but I cannot read lips, like, whatsoever. Like, if I can't, it doesn't help if I can see you. I have to actually,
Once you get older, I think your hearing goes up and you start reading people's lips or whatever, you know?
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
What, we'll wrap up here, because I
can go a little bit longer if you want to. We can get another 15.
Okay. It's up to you. I don't have any plans for at least a little bit. What would have been some of your favorite memories of teaching philosophy here? Like from, I don't know, from each of the past few decades, I suppose. So like way back and then kind of.
Well, way back it was interesting when I first started here. There was kids from all over Nebraska. I mean, every county. And there was more students when I started teaching here than there is now.
Okay.
There was maybe 5,600 students on campus, Kurt. Now there can't be a couple thousand, you know.
Huh.
There's so many people online, but there used to be that many, and they used to have almost 3 to a dorm room at one time. But the kids came, there was a lot more kids from the country in Nebraska, and a lot of them were farm kids, I think, more so than now. Now a lot of them they're from the country, but they weren't raised on farms. But just a lot of kids who were just anxious and wanted to come to college to learn things. And a lot more workers, I think. They were harder working kids than they probably are now. Same caliber of kids, pretty much. And back then, they came to college a little bit more excited to learn. Yeah, you could get more of them interested in it, I think. Now, there wasn't any technology. There was no phones. There was no computers. There was nothing when I first started. So it's not that distraction. That's a hell of a distraction you've seen in the last 10 years with technology and things. I mean, even in a hall, for example, before people would be talking about the
you
class.
get to know
now
people.
Nobody gets to know anybody.
Yeah.
So you've seen that, what's done to your generation is that they don't talk to people that are strangers, where before you had to talk to people in the hall, otherwise you just sat there and looked at the wall. But just the difference in that, and coming into class, everybody be talking. I come into class now, everybody's on their phone. So just that, what that's done, it's a really worrisome thing, I think, because you're seeing people are driven to be introverts. They're not extroverts. They're not with the people. You don't go with strangers and just start talking to them. You know.
I mean, I'll catch myself doing that, honestly. Like it is a lot easier to be on your phone, looking at your own, like staying involved in your own life and stuff. And to some extent, it's kind of like, well, I think a lot of people justify it with, you know, we're in a gen ed class, I'm never going to see this guy again in my life. You know, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But still, I do wonder if we'd be better for it, like, to just
well, it's always the case. The
off.
wonderful thing with teaching, you see what's interesting over the century, I mean, over the centuries, over a 30-year period, you can't give reading to somebody. In literature, you can't make them read.
Mm-hmm.
You can have them read the book, but even then they'll skim over the cliff notes. But to try to get them where they're interested in reading, and it's fun to watch over the years all the kids who you've seen wake up to reading. They weren't interested in reading. They could read, but didn't do it. Now they can read, and now they're voracious readers, and they're starting to learn. And you can see their lives, they become better people for it. It makes it, reading a good book changes the life. That's what it does. And when you start reading these books, it's fun to see the transformation, especially from kids. When you're 18, it's a great jump from being 18 to 22. If you've been here for 4 years, especially if you're introduced to books and things like that. I mean, you do most of you'll grow up far more than you had in the previous 18 years by taking yourself seriously. So it's always joy seeing that happen, you know.
Do you have a cool story of someone who was kind of like on the fence and now they're off doing awesome things, I guess?
Yeah, I remember one kid in particular, Josh Schultz, who came here from Omaha, and he was a graphic art designer.
Okay.
He wanted to be in graphic arts. This is back about maybe 15, 20 years ago. And he had long blonde hair, and he drove a Jeep. And he also, I remember he had big old earrings he wore, and he's a graphic artist. He's taking an intro to philosophy. But he had his Jeep, he'd do things like when he said when he was in high school, he had his Jeep in high school. When he washed his hair in the morning, he'd just stand up on the Jeep on the way to school and just dry his hair. But he became a student here, and he was interested in philosophy, and he started taking philosophy, and he took some literature from Don Welch and some philosophy courses from us, and before you know it, he'd cut his hair, and the big old earrings and everything had dropped away, and his dyed blonde hair was starting to lose, and he became very serious. And now he met a young gal here, and he got married to her, I think, about the second year he was here. I think now he's got 5 kids. He's got a PhD in philosophy. And he went to school here, and he went up to Marquette to go to school there, coming from UNK, this is a little public school, and to go to Marquette's a big Catholic university. And even to go to a school like that after coming from a place like UNK, usually you have to go to really exquisite private schools to go to those kind of private, colleges like you went to Baylor or something. You have to have And after he was there a couple of weeks, they gave him a GA-ship and a full ride for the next 6 years because he'd been here with us, and he'd read all of our courses. We read primary sources so the students know the books. They read the books with him. They watch him a complete turnaround. Now he's got 5 kids, and he's a PhD, and he teaches at a college, the Sales College in Philadelphia. He's got himself a little farmstead north of Philadelphia. Then there's Mark Bates, who I had, who was a kid from Anselmo, and he's back working with his brother on a bulldozer in Broken Bow. I think now he's 50-some years old. So you have this is a spectrum of a bulldozer to a PhD. But he got enamored with ideas. He went back and got a master's degree at Temple University in Philadelphia. Then went back down Selma, and he just works hauling corn or whatever. But part of it is just falling in love with the ideas. Philosophy has to do with just being a good person and understanding the books of the Western tradition and who the great souls and spirits are in the world, the great minds.
Yeah, I think, philosophy seems like you're either going to, if you get a degree in philosophy, you're either going to teach philosophy or you're going to go off and just live life, but like a better person, essentially.
Well,
it's kind of what
now it's set up with, even as a 30-hour degree, so you can get a double major.
Yeah.
But looking back, we had a lot of computer scientists, a lot of English majors, a lot of teachers, a lot of doctors, pathologists, all walks of life. They just took philosophy, but then they got another major is what they had.
Hmm.
You put them together, 'cause it's only a 30-hour course.
I've looked into getting it for a double major. I haven't
'Cause
strongly
you have the
considered
hours
it,
to
but
do it. You
yeah.
can do it.
We'll see. I'd love to take another class with you. I know that much. So we'll
Next semester,
see
I'm
what
teaching
happens.
philosophy and literature. We're reading Dante's Inferno to start with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that next semester?
That's upper division. There's only 6 kids in that class.
Okay.
6 students. Yeah, we'll read a Russian novel by Solzhenitsyn, and then we'll read some Saint-Exupéry, who's a French author.
Huh.
Yeah. No, you'll find that it goes well with literature, but in philosophy, we're looking at more of the ideas in what we read as opposed to the genres and all these other type of literary devices and things that you learn when you learn English so much,
Yeah. What would be your pitch for students coming in freshman year or whatever to take 101? Why should they take 101?
Well, it'll help.
Or 100. I actually don't.
100. Yeah, 100. Well, especially Plato's Republic's a good book to read when you're first coming to college, because it gives you an order to life and how the different constitutions of the soul are, and what you want to be in life, what the different properties of being a human being are, and a different spiritual side, and the fact that there's a purpose to your life, and you're supposed to make something of yourself, and you're going to develop as you go into a kind of person you never thought there would be, especially when you look at the Greeks have a sense of fine craftsmanship, which if you're coming from an athletic bent or you're coming from even a farm, the idea of working well in ordered space, like if you're an athlete learning. I remember those students when I was talking to them about football, explaining to them in football how it's all lines. It's like a sonnet, or you have to move through a football field. Well, you have to put form. You have to put form on a horse. You have to bridle a horse in order to ride it. But if you're unbridled as a human being, you will not reach your potential. And that's what a good philosophy course will help you to see that. Like, and athletics is a good metaphor always, because anybody without a trainer, you wouldn't be worth a damn. Without a coach, you wouldn't amount to anything. You might be athletic, but you have no direction in your life. To order your potentials, that's what a good course will do. You become literate. You find out you wake up to your own intellect. Before, you never knew you had these things. Because being literate and seeing these things are not something you're born with the ability to do it, but you don't do it yet. Unless somebody shows you how to do it, you don't even know you're capable of. You could be able to play the guitar now, and you've never had anybody introduce it to you and had you practice, but you've got to get over that first year of just learning to use your hand, then you can do it. And you go, wow, I have this talent. Yeah, and now you work and you got a talent. Yeah. And before, you're just slugging along looking at your phone.
Yeah.
That's too much of you. Nobody's done anything with you.
Huh. I think that's a pretty good sales pitch. I take that class.
And most people have just left you alone. In school, they gave you YouTube. The teacher checked out.
Yeah.
Sitting there doing stupid worksheets, and you're bored to death, and you wonder why you don't like the 9th grade. Well, it's a waste of your time, basically. They're not engaging you at all. You see the same thing in college, though. Half these classes are a repetition of 9th grade classes.
I can actually attest to that, because my first semester here, I took a college algebra class. It was the exact same algebra I took in school. Yeah. There's no such thing. I was like, wait, what?
There's no such thing as college algebra.
Yeah.
Or college biology. It's just the 9th grade again.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
What I had an idea the other day. I was talking with my sister about this. I'm curious because you're the deep thinker guy.
I don't know about that. I'll be though.
Why do we have it in our heads that we need to give kids information in college? Because we live in the information era, right? Like, information is everywhere. Like, I took a course this semester. I'm like, I could have learned all this from 3 weeks of YouTube, honestly.
Oh no.
And so, in my head, I'm like, unless I'm being taught like a skill, or unless I'm having someone like you work with ideas and stuff, to get me thinking, if it's not doing that, I don't see much point of college.
Well, part of it is what you've happened is you've got these, what we read in Plato, the sophists, who just follow man around and give him information. Most of this, what you've got is you've got people who are teaching at high school levels. Even that, used to be you had schooling, you learned grammar, you learned the structure of your language, and then you started reading. You learned poetry, you learned different forms, you learned a sonnet. You learn prosody, you learn terse rima, you learn these different forms. And then you went off and studied and learned history and things like that so you could bring your past into the present of your own. Like you read scripture as a Christian, you have to read these things. But just to have somebody inform you and never engage you in this stuff, it's a waste. You're bored to death with it.
Yeah.
What's happened now is these places are not universities anymore at all. They're low-level community colleges on a hot day.
Yeah.
Because they're running them with adjuncts and part-timers, and the people you have are not certified teachers to begin with. But they give you a textbook and they read information, but they're just selling degrees to you.
Yeah.
And what's happening down the end of the road is part of it is you've seen this. We've got state-run education here, which means they don't read the fullness of the Western tradition with you. You have no sense of Christianity whatsoever in school, unless you've got in literature. Basically, you read in literature, for example, if you cut Christianity out of your literature, you're not going to read most Western literature because you have the basis. Even Shakespearean plays, there's a Christian element. The whole movement of the soul into the other world is what the Western world is important to the individual. Well, now you get these courses, everything's set up just for finding you with industrial distribution degrees. That means you work in a warehouse. That's okay. But you don't have to go to college to learn to do this
you could
stuff.
just go straight
if
to the
you went
warehouse.
to college, they could give you where you know math and skills, but then you go to the warehouse and in 6 months they'll show you your job. But in other words, now they're trying to marry this to the business sector.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a dummy education is what you're getting. Which isn't to say accounting isn't difficult. You could learn it, and you sure learn the rudiments of it. But to major in just that by itself, you're going to be somebody's clerk is what you're going to be. You know, they're not training the whole you. You're just ending up a peasant is what you're ending up. That's why you're bored with it. It's a waste of time, most of it. You know.
You're making me want to drop out of college.
No, you should. It's just ridiculous. Here's a book. I'll show you a book that you asked us. What I thought about this, I used to put out my own newsletter. This is my critical essays on the university. That's my book.
No way.
Yeah, I wrote that here. I did it for 28 years. I put out a newsletter, and I'd send it to all the faculty and everybody every year.
I'm going to take a picture of this.
Huh? No, here's a copy of it right here.
Oh, okay.
Here's a copy of it. Here's what I do it every year. Is I did my own newsletter. I did 5 issues a year for 28 years.
No way. Oh, Chesterton.
Yeah, right away.
I've read it. I haven't read a lot of Chesterton. I've read some Father Brown before, though. That's
a
fun.
good one.
It's kind of fun.
This is the thing I wrote. Christmas was 1 week away, so I wrote this, in the 2009.
Yeah.
Just 11 years ago.
Huh. Christmas is 1 week away. You said these are just extras?
Pardon?
These are just extras?
Yeah, these are essays. Yeah, you can have it. I sent this to the whole faculty,
Okay.
the Board of Regents, and about 300 people off campus. This is my own newsletter I wrote for 28 years.
I'll keep one of these. That seems like that'll be a good read. We can wrap things up now. Where are you going after this?
Huh?
Where are you going after this?
I'm
Are
going
you
to teach until I die, I think. I'm only 71 now.
okay?
I'll probably teach a couple more years, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. But as long as am healthy, I'll keep doing it. Because teaching's not a career; it's a vocation. It's a calling. You know, you saw what I do. I go sit in a room and I get to read books with people who wouldn't read books. You just lock them in a room and read a book. Just try to move them along and advance them in their own lives. You know.
You got any other final anything else you want to do? I mean, you talked about it in class. You're in winter now.
What?
You're in winter now.
Well, I wish I could learn to play the blues guitar better. I'm always working on my blues guitar. I picked up the guitar. I didn't play for 30 years. When I had it when I was a graduate, then I had to put it away. So I've been playing the guitar for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And plus, I got 12 grandkids, which are an absolute joy, teaching them how to read and being with them. I got a grandkid this year graduated from high school, and I got one who was just born here 6 weeks ago. Phineas, and the oldest one's Ashland, so I got 12 grandkids. Spent a little time with them, but I'll just keep teaching and plugging along, you know. But being a teacher is you're disciples of the Lord. I mean, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Any job you got. I mean, what are you going to do after Christ leaves? Well, I'll be dead, hopefully. but be with. I mean, you got to work your way. You're working back to God is what you're working to in the big picture of things. And you don't talk about that directly in class. You're not there. You're not theologians in class. It's not a religious school. But there's that element in the Western world has that element of the journey, and the seeking and the search is always there, and the freedom. And what you're seeing in modern state education, they've taken that whole journey aspect out of it. And ever since my grandkids are just right in the 7th grade, they're asking them what they want to be when they grow up. You know, so it's a career education all the time. And there's no sense of adventure to the kid. It's boring, you know.
It's turned into what you want to be instead of who you want to be, you know.
Who am I? Just know, here's what we want you to do. No, you're not asking, you're showing me how, but you don't tell me why. It's like the beginning of the Republic. Why should we be just? We don't know why. Tell us why should man be just. Don't tell me how it'll benefit me. But that's what those young men do. And hopefully some people turn around reading that book. I don't know if it hits you a bit. But you read that book later on, it really will sing to you. Wait a while. Read it like in 5 years, 10 years, or when you're down the road, especially if you're going to go into teaching.
Yeah.
I was over doing watching one of my kids run at Ogallala. My grandson was running. And I pulled in the parking lot there at the country club, and the fellow who was taking the money, he said, "Dr. Martin, do you remember me?" And I didn't remember. And he just had me 3 years before, and he was a history teacher there.
Okay.
And he was reading parts of Plato's Republic with his history class, he told me.
Yeah.
So that was its own great reward when you see things like that. But now, when I go out in Nebraska, anywhere I go, it's not very long before I run into somebody I know, because I've been teaching here for 34 years.
Yeah.
I ran into a guy the other day. I thought was at the track at the state cross country, and he'd had me as a student in 1989.
Wow!
And his kid was running in cross country and stuff like this. So it's fun. Just and he goes, I can remember we were talking about these. Yeah, you know. You see how with the formation being there, because they started taking themselves seriously. Is what you want to do, you know.
That is so cool. I'm so glad that you said yes to coming on for my podcast here.
Because you got to see school. Most of this is a waste of time if you don't know. It's boring as hell.
Yeah.
Because the people teaching are not passionate about it. So many people have stayed in school too long. I mean, it's a good, comfortable life for a teacher, but what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Information. I was talking to a student the other day. I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "Well, we went to class and it was a religion class. What'd you do? We watched some YouTube about Muslims." Well, that's great. You didn't read the Quran. You didn't know. We didn't read any of that. We watched YouTubes about the Muslims. Well, so what's it teaching me? I got to gather the YouTube presentation. I'm sure there's teachers here now who all their classes are just giving YouTube presentations. You know, especially with the online thing.
Yeah, online has been rough.
Oh, that's really rough.
It's been rough.
But you'll see when you don't want to, if you're an English teacher, it's going to be online. Don't go into education. Because you want to be there with a student.
If I can't be in person with people, I don't think I can do it.
Don't go there just to YouTube present. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You won't get to them.
Do you have any other final thoughts?
Yeah. You can take another philosophy class, Kurt?
I would love to. I'm not scheduled to next semester, but I'll look over the enrollment for classes and stuff.
For next semester, like the fellow teaching ancient philosophy, they're reading Aristotle's Rhetoric, which leaves the formation of how drama is done and everything like that. And also they're reading 3 or 4 Greek tragedies, what they read when he teaches that. But then he lays out Aristotle's Rhetoric, which is the formation that you see with regard to the writing of plays and poetry and everything that's used for centuries in the Western world. These are all books that Shakespeare and people like that have cut their teeth on, as far as the form of a play and how the characters are used and what's the nature of drama and things like that. So it's wonderful to dig back into. I'm sure we got Marguerite Tassi or something like that. They know that they show you the history of the ideas and how long this has been going on.
I have only heard of you in the philosophy department. The other professors in philosophy, they're pretty good to take classes with too.
It's all set like my class. It's all you read a book and you have discussions on the book.
Gotcha.
And hopefully you can hear each other. That makes a difference.
That will make a difference.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts. That was an awful classroom for me because I wear hearing aids.
Yeah.
And so it was just that fan on all the times. I got this fan just beating on my head. No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I think you set a record. You're the oldest guest
really?
I've ever had on. Yep.
What's the youngest?
Oh, let me think. Probably like my age.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
So you have any 70-year-olds?
Not yet. I've been wanting to get one of my grandparents on here at some point.
Yeah, I've been here since I was just 35.
Yeah.
I think I've been here that long. I had a picture of me somewhere. It was kind of fun. You look at it, these stupid things you look at long ago. You go, damn, how did I ever look like that? Maybe I lost it. I don't know where it is. It's funny to see, though. You've been to a place, and I came here, I was just the youngest guy, and now I'm the only one left. All the other guys when I first came here are all gone.
Mm.
Like I'm running to my note cards from when I was an undergraduate. I used to make note cards when I was writing papers, to do papers. So you had to write 3x5 cards. Before you had a computer, so you had to write all your resources, references down, quotes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, when I was working on my dissertation, then you see you just put the quote down, and then you look at the card, and then you go back to the book, and then you could quote it. Because you didn't have a computer to work with.
These are so much bigger than note cards.
Yeah, look at me. This is my whole outline of Plato's Republic right there.
What?
On page 2, look at it. Right there.
Lockhart is puzzled by that.
That's
No
it,
way.
isn't it? That's it, isn't it? What's it saying? Read the first card.
Lockhart is puzzled by the doctrine of the justice.
Right.
Wow.
There it is.
Do you still go back and use some of this?
No, not at all.
No, it's just in your mind now.
Probably like 85, 82, 83.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. So, interesting when you read something like Plato, like what you saw. I mean, that's been introduced to every generation since him.
Yeah.
And you get to go in there and introduce it again. And it's
Yep.
not as though every time you read it, there's something you see. It's a different group of people, and hopefully you just get them. Most of them they can't read.
Mhm.
You know, as a teacher, they can't. They're not even reading the book when you're in there. So eventually, I had to get to the point where in upper division, you don't read them a paragraph and try to get them to read. You know, that's what you do in high school with a kid. I would hope. Did your teachers have you just read a paragraph with them?
Yeah, we'd read in class and stuff. Yeah. My English classes weren't great, but I did have a literature class that was really good in high school. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. Here's a good book for you.
Well, everyone, that's going to do it for today, I guess. A couple quick notes right here at the end. There were a few times throughout the conversation that I started a thought, but Professor Martin kind of interrupted me before I really finished it. So throughout the conversations, a couple of transitions might have been a little janky and stuff like that. Hopefully that wasn't a huge deterrent for you guys and you were still able to enjoy it and things like that. But I know there are a couple times listening back I heard something. I was like, what was I even going to say there? And so maybe things sounded a little off every now and then, aside from the whole audio thing. And yes, again, about the audio thing, I know I need to get a different water bottle for podcasting. Well, actually, realistically, I need to get a different mic that doesn't pick up all the extra noises. You can probably hear the fan right now in the background, actually. But, yeah, I need to use a different water bottle so you don't hear this squeaking throughout. And you could, it was right next to the heater. There was construction outside and a highway. So, a lot of things. But, hey, we got her done. And that's the final regular episode of this year. Man, what a year it's been. I wasn't totally sure how much I was gonna keep doing this. Somebody just yelled. And definitely in the summer, just during the height of COVID stuff, there was a time where I was just like, man, I don't really know. I wasn't doing much, and now coming back to college and pursuing some of this stuff a little bit more, I'm like, we need to make podcasting a thing. So next year, the plan is every other week there's going to be a new episode. Every other Wednesday afternoon, a new episode will go up. So yeah, I really hope you guys are looking forward to that. I'm super, super stoked, actually. There's a lot of people yelling in the background. I don't know. Life at the CSF house. But actually, if you made it this far, you get a secret surprise here. Today is not going to be the last episode of the year, so I can't get too sentimental just yet. I'm going to try something, and we're going to see how well it goes, but it's been a wild year for a lot of people, and for me too. And gonna try and open up about it. I don't totally open up to a lot of people unless I'm like really comfortable with them and stuff. But I think it's gonna be good for me. It's gonna be called an honest letter, number 1 or 2020. I don't know, something like that. But basically, it's gonna be me sitting in front of my microphone and talking to myself for, I don't honestly know. Could be half an hour, could be an hour. If I'm feeling really ambitious, who knows? Maybe wouldn't that be ironic? The longest conversation I have on this show is with myself. Sounds a little egotistic also, but who knows? Yeah. So if you want to hear Kurt's thoughts on life, tune in for sometime right around the end of the year here. That'll come out, and we'll see how it goes. But for today, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for the support, and have a great day.